Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming. My name is Hollow, and today you're either going to be upset with me or maybe agree with me. Maybe even both, let's find out. Because I'm talking about 5 things that could maybe use some adjustment in Elden Ring. There's possible weapons, ashes of war, or even mechanics that are a bit overtuned at the moment. Things that when you experience it in PvP, it makes you groan to see. It's something that we all kinda expect to be adjusted, and for me, I was shocked that some of them weren't in the big 1.04 patch. Before we get into it though, I just want to express that I know nothing I say or think in a video will actually impact Elden Ring. This is just a fun talk about crazy strong things in the game. But it's also fine if you disagree with any of these. And also at the same time, this video certainly won't be any deciding factor in what a dev chooses to adjust in the video game. I only say this because there are people in our comments that seem to think that any video we make will actually impact the game. We obviously know that's not the case. So let's start with one I think most will agree with. The Ash of War Bloodhound Step is a little bit too good. It would make a lot of sense for them to make Bloodhound Step even slightly less efficient or powerful in a future patch. This incredible Ash of War lets you dash super far forward in a direction of your choosing, and then you can enjoy during that outrageously long iframes. It lets you safely evade so many attacks for just a little FP, which is simply incredible when you're learning, say, a new boss fight for the first time, or I guess any situation. Being able to easily avoid incoming damage even if you press that button overly early, and even with your base mind stat, you can dash a lot of times. Naturally in PvE, it is an incredible tool that you might consider a bit too good, but it's when we talk PvP that it's more of a problem. You see, it becomes a bit obnoxious when your opponent is just sliding around over and over and over while you just wait, hoping they'll eventually come in for an attack and maybe you can hit them. The attack you release after the dash is your roll or crouch attack. So in the case of Colossal Swords, that's the insanely effective thrust known as the poke. It comes out very quick, it's got great range, and being a colossal weapon, it does a lot of damage. So with any heavy big weapon, Bloodhound Step is an insane tool for harass and pressure. These days, thankfully, it's not as common as it was in the first month of release, where it felt like really everyone and their mum was running that Ash of War. But as a single Ash of War goes, it's insane in all content. Oppressive in PvP, overly common, and efficient to use thanks to the light FP cost, which we can further reduce using a talisman. For those reasons, I think it's a bit too strong, and I'd fully understand if they adjusted it in a patch, maybe reducing the iframes or increasing the FP cost, or another way. Still, it has survived not 1 but 2 major patches for balancing, so maybe they don't intend to ever change this. Next up, let's just get it out of the way. Rivers of Blood and its Ash of War, Corpse Piler, is perhaps the biggest meme in the community. I remember the first week when arcane was fixed, scaling correctly now, making certain weapons a bit strong. Rivers of Blood was a cool katana with a useful Ash of War before that patch, but after it became an absolute powerhouse, so much so that it was just stupid. The Corpse Piler Ash of War has insane range, crazy bleed build-up, very high raw damage, and then it's followed by the bleed proc itself if you do land hits. The combo is lengthy, easily chained into another cast of the whole thing again. In PvE, this thing crunches enemies with ease, whether you're in single target or AoE, and in PvP, it's outrageous. Everyone knows what is coming the moment they see that red blade in hand, and from there it's all about avoiding that long combo and not letting a single hit land, or you're just done. In my experience, using this weapon in PvP comes down to waiting for the right moment to press L2 and then I've won, or just spamming it and seeing them struggle. It makes me feel a little dirty to use it at this point, because it's simply so strong, and for me, not that fun. Some people love the power of this thing and really enjoy using it, and I think that's fine. It's in the game. If you want to use it, you can. But I also disagree with people who say it's not too strong or OP. I feel it definitely is. It's one of the best options for speedrunning, even against bleed immune bosses. The Rivers of Blood katana is also insanely good without the Ash of War. It's a bleed katana with good stats. So it was a surprise in 1.04 when it missed the nerf. I wasn't the only person to bring it up. I saw a lot of tweets in reply to the patch with people just, surprised it wasn't changed in a proper way. All that really happened to it was the stagger of the bleed proc. That was reduced. And that does not change the weapon strength at all. Which brings me to number 3 for things I think could use some adjustment. Bleed status as a whole. It's very, very easy these days to net yourself over 100 bleed on a weapon, thanks to bleed affinity and arcane scaling. With about 50 arcane, and just that affinity scaling, so many weapons get that insane bleed build-up rate, leading to fast procs and crazy damage. This made just about every bleed weapon in the game one of the strongest options in the current meta. and it's largely all we saw in the first week since that arcane fix. In PvE, bleed was always good in Elden Ring, the strongest status by far. While yeah, the little stagger after a bleed proc is not quite as long as it used to be, the damage is still nuts, and the pace at which you build that bleed proc is also nuts. Still, I actually appreciate how they address bleed in 1.04. The stagger being a bit reduced rather than going too far and balancing with a hammer rather than like a scalpel meant that yes, bleed is still relevant despite seeing technically a nerf. However, I still feel that it does too much too fast compared to the other statuses in the game. Take Madness, that saw real nerfs across the board. They went hard on that status, but Bleed seemed to dodge the brunt of it. And obviously when we talk about Bleed, we have to talk about Seppuku, the Ash of War that makes it very broken. By simply applying Seppuku to both weapons with Bleed Affinity, you can now proc Bleed with 1 or 2 hits maximum, constantly. That obviously destroys enemies, bosses, or people in PvP. Seppuku not only increases your Bleed buildup by a large amount, but it also increases your base AR on each weapon. So you're hitting hard even without the bleed. If they do adjust bleed, I want to see them take it easy again. Make it slightly weaker, not ruin it. And then maybe they could also make poison, rot, or even frost a bit more relevant with some sort of buff. That could really shake up the meta and open up a lot of builds. Next up, one I see here and there during PvP, despite how crazy strong it actually is. We're talking about the magic Pebble Ash of War Glintstone Pebble. For a tiny amount of FP, you can shoot out a little magic pebble, which upon landing does really good damage. More importantly though, it also completely destroys the target's poise, so you'll be fully stunned for a ridiculously long time. Perfect for a follow-up with the heavy from the Ash of War. That follow-up is a charge forward that does crazy damage in PvP and is a real vigor check. You can simply pebble someone at range, press R2, and then watch them die. Which, god, that feels incredible when you're dealing with gankers in an invasion, but yeah, in any duel, it's super dangerous to deal with. You're constantly having to avoid that damn pebble shot, because if you do take a single hit, you're just done. It has a short to medium range, so you can catch people outside of normal trade distance, and we can apply it to a nice variety of weapons. While I do see it here and there in my duels, I am surprised to not see it more often. I see it as just as dangerous and annoying as Rivers of Blood. Maybe people don't know about it as much as they know about Rivers. It works well in PvE too. You have that range stagger, which can work as an infinite stagger on many enemies, and then that mini stagger can even become a full stagger for a critical hit. So yeah, cutting to the chase, this simple and early game Ash of War is a bit silly. It does so much damage, it staggers so well, and essentially in PvP, if you're hit by this, you're all but dead. Certainly then, that could use a bit of adjustment, something as simple as maybe reducing the stagger time on the Pebble hit, like they did with the Madness stun window. Last but not least, one I don't expect to see adjustment when Rivers of Blood survived, but one I want to acknowledge at least. In 1.04, many Ashes of War saw big buffs to their cast times, and of course recovery times too. They're so much better than they were, and many of them are pretty damn strong now. I think it's fair to say then that while a lot of testing is still needed, there's one Ash of War that's crazy good right now, and that's Lion's Claw. The simple front flip using a colossal weapon, like say with the Great Sword, makes for a powerful hit, which also gap closes well and provides insane hyper armor during it. So if you trade into this during PvP, you're gonna regret it. We can combo it from basic attacks for even better trading, and in PvE it's still as strong as hell, staggering and stunning bosses for those sweet criticals. And again, with such powerful hyper armor, if you press this, it's likely gonna land. It comes out fast, and you're not stuck in it after you do it anymore. I'd personally run this every chance I could on a big weapon these days. And I mean, I really like this improvement to this Ash of War and the Ashes of War in general. I think this is exactly what they needed. But I must admit, this one feels a bit too good in PvP. And it makes me wonder if this Ash of War, and perhaps a few others, will see some minor adjustment in a future patch. But yeah, again, if Rivers of Blood dodged it, I'm not convinced this one's gonna get hit. But there you have it, my talk on some of the crazy things in Elden Ring that maybe could use some adjustment. Once again, you are fine to disagree with me on any of these. It's just a game and I'm just talking about it. It's not that big of a deal. I'm just someone that plays PvP a good amount, and this is something I see fairly often. To be honest though, I really like the way Elden Ring has shifted its meta not only once, but twice now, so soon after release. All I really want to see in the future is more of that. Keep things fresh, change things up, challenge the current meta. And so far, I think they're doing a good job with that, and I'm enjoying it. Let me know your thoughts, though, and if you've enjoyed the video, a like would be appreciated. For now, though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.